Welcome to Divorce Mortgage Strategies, brought to you by the Divorce Lending Association, where clarity meets strategy in the financial side of divorce. Whether you're a family law professional, a financial expert, or someone navigating the complexities of divorce yourself, this podcast is your go-to resource for trusted insight into how real property and mortgage financing intersect with divorce outcomes. We don't just talk about houses. We talk about strategic solutions that protect futures. Let's dive in. Today, we welcome host, certified divorce lending professional, Karla Kyte, and her guest, licensed legal paraprofessional, Kaitlyn Story.
I'm Karla Kyte with My Divorce Mortgage Planning, and today my guest is Kaitlyn Story, and she is a licensed legal paraprofessional here in Denver, Colorado. So, Kaitlyn, thank you so much for joining today. I'm going to get into some questions with you about your practice, and I think you had a little bit of a unique path into becoming an LLP. And so let's start with a little bit of that. Let's start with your history. How did you get into family law to start with?
So, guess the short version of it would be I was a recruiter at Modus. I recruited for IT positions and then some other positions, but for large, New York, Bank of New York Mellon, Thomson Reuters, some very large, huge companies. So I was working for the man. I quickly realized that IT recruiting looked a little bit like indentured servitude. You could actually own someone's visa, and that made things really uncomfortable for me. And I decided to, for moral reasons, to walk away. I had always wanted to get into legal, had always felt less than, so never tried to do it. And just went ahead and went to a paralegal class, got this little certificate, not the actual certification, but a paralegal certificate, course certificate, pounded pavement. The Arapahoe Bar was kind enough to help tailor my resume. It was sent out to the attorneys of the Arapahoe Bar. I got my first phone call from a very heavy hitter in the family law industry. She is well known because she's dyes her hair completely purple.
Yeah.
And she has been around for 35 years. I got my feet wet being a paralegal and running extremely organized case files, working for someone who was very meticulous, very organized, kept full paper and electronic files, and just really set me up well on a foundation and path to pursue what I've now been doing for about 11 years as a litigation paralegal. I'm now actually an advanced certified paralegal, as well as you mentioned, an LLP. So now I can practice family law, which is very daunting, but here we are.
Well, and you worked for several other attorneys after her, right? So you really got your feet wet in this space, right?
Yes. I have been
Yeah.
fortunate enough that I've worked for mostly partners or owners of firms, and usually on a trial team. So I have been all litigation in very complex cases. I don't see myself giving up litigation anytime soon. So
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. And I know also recently, so for those of you that don't know what a licensed legal paraprofessional is, it's something that is unique to it's not only in Colorado, it's in several other states, but it's not in every state. So it's unique in that way.
right.
And you guys had some rules change in December, right? That took your handcuffs off a little bit more, right? And it really freed you up. And I think litigation is one of them, right?
Yes, we are now able to be full-blown litigators. It is my understanding that those of us in Colorado, it's a little bit different. We don't have to have supervisors, and we are actually members of the Colorado Bar. So I don't believe that in any other state, the licensed paraprofessionals are members of the actual legal system. And now, especially with this rule change, I do believe we are some of the few only people in the entire country that can litigate a case in front of a judge and pass the bar. So we are, what an honor, but also talk about jumping off into the deep end, into the unknown.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's huge.
Well, and I think I want to mention too, and this is my understanding, tell me if I'm wrong, the reason that the state of Colorado approved the LLP designation was because we had so many unrepresented divorce cases in court, and that really bogs down the court system. It's, I mean, people really go in blind. And even me, with all of the knowledge that I have around divorce, I would never go in without representation. And so this, the LLP designation, what it was meant for, I think, was to offer a more availability to representation and more affordable availability to representation, right?
Exactly. That is exactly, this is called the
Okay.
Access to Justice Initiative, and that is what
Okay.
judges and kind of the legal system really pushed for. I wouldn't say that it was, we did have attorney help and judge help, but I wouldn't say that attorneys were necessarily on board. This is kind of something the court pushed for because you're right, they're seeing about 70 to 80% of family law cases still coming through pro se. And now with ChatGPT and AI, the filings are getting more convoluted,
Ah,
complex. Exactly. So we're just
yeah,
weird time.
yeah. So that's a scary thing right there too, because, and I've done several videos on this. I will tell you, when I'm doing my video scripts, and I run all of my stuff through ChatGPT just because it's fast, right? It helps me pop out those scripts quicker. But what I find is a bunch of really, really bad information that I'm getting. And it's funny because I talk to my chat GPT, and I find myself in arguments with chat GPT, or I get mad, like, no, that is not right. Why do you keep, and so the misinformation that comes across chat GPT is, I think that would be really detrimental to a lot of these divorce cases. So that's really unfortunate if a lot of people are still trying to go pro se and depending on that. Do you think that a lot of people that are going pro se, do you think it's because they truly cannot afford it, or they just don't want to pay for that? Like, what do you really think?
I think that's kind of it's an interesting position. There are obviously people who genuinely cannot afford services at
Yes.
$400 an hour. I mean, the average divorce, if you're doing a litigated divorce, you're going all the way to permanent orders, is costing about 20 grand. I mean, I've seen it cost upwards of $250,000, if not more than that. It's very case to case, depends basis, but I do see people who genuinely can't afford it, but I also see people who are coming forth and saying, I have no money, but are not willing to downsize or go without in order to fight for things that they're saying are the most important things in the world to
Yeah.
them. So it depends on who you're talking to.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of that too. I see, I'll hear people say, and even, when they need my services, like, "Oh, I don't have any money." And I mean, it's unfortunate. And it's not that I don't want to help these people that don't have money, because I know there are people that genuinely don't. And that's why I offer a lot of free stuff like this, right? Like, this is going on YouTube for free. I do a lot of free webinars in an effort to at least get the knowledge and the information out there. What they do with it is, of course, up to them, right? But I think we both know both sides of where a divorce just gets completely out of hand in terms of cost, right? I know I talked to a guy that his divorce cost over 600,000, and I mean, that just is unfathomable. I don't understand it, but it happens. So let's go fast forward. You've had your LLP certificate now for a couple of years,
Oh, almost a year. I was
almost a year.
April 2025 was
Okay,
when I took the
cool.
test.
And you opened your own business, right? So you're not technically working for an attorney. You're running your own divorce business. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I actually opened Covalent as a freelance paralegal services company in 2021, December 2021. And
Okay.
then I was contracting as a paralegal. I ended up actually taking a job in-house for a little bit for a personal injury firm, which I loved. Had the LLP position not opened up and required certain hours and given me the chance to have my own practice, I would have stayed doing catastrophic injury, wrongful death and sexual assault. That was an interesting caseload. But this is an opportunity. I have a 9-month-old daughter, for me to be able to build something while being home, which of course is still
Yeah.
daunting, but I feel pretty good about it. You've got a couple of clients that have just come through word of mouth and referrals. I haven't done too much marketing. That's something we're going to be leaning into here in
Yeah.
2020. But
Marketing takes a lot, a
yeah,
lot of money and a lot of time, right? So yeah, it can be tricky. So I don't want you to give your hourly rate because I know hourly rates change and evolve as you grow your practice. But on an average, can you ballpark maybe what a divorce would cost if you're not going to litigation, or if you are going to litigation? Like, can you, is that even possible? I don't want to ask something that's inappropriate.
no, I'd say on average, LLPs are charging about half of what attorneys are charging. And that's usually our paralegal rate. As senior litigation paralegals, we're billing out 185 to, I mean, upwards of bigger firms are going to be billing out paralegals around 250 even. So I'd say you
Hmm.
kind of have this range from 150 to 250, depending on the skill and ability of the paralegal. And that is what LLPs have generally been charging, is kind of in that still paralegal. Granted, as those of us who continue to litigate gain experience and continue
Yeah.
to forge forward, I can see our rates going up and kind of following, billing half of what a senior associate or senior attorney might bill at a larger firm. And you're still getting, most of us have 10 years experience, at least, I'd say at least 5, most everybody coming in. Yeah. So
Yeah. Do you know roughly how many LLPs there are now in the state of Colorado?
there are roughly like 115. Oh, with the new group that went through, I'd probably say 130 to 140 range.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it's a relatively small group. And that's what I've known too, or what I've noticed about most of them is that you're right. They do have, I mean, gosh, there's some that have 25, 30 years of experience. So I think the experience runs pretty deep in the LLP group. I think as it continues, that will start to come down a little bit, right? Because I think like the first group through, they all had a ton of experience. They were chomping at the bit for something like this. And, as more groups and more groups come through, you realize that you can do this, you can get this without the experience, right? And still like build. But I would say those LLPs are probably not opening up their own practice. They're probably going to get their LLP and they'll go to work for a family law firm as an LLP under an attorney in the firm, right?
Yep. Pretty much kind of splitting the baby, I guess, with mostly paralegal
Yeah.
work and then adding some, smaller cases that they'll have an attorney oversee them on.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
So let's talk about you a little bit more. What are some cases that maybe stick out for you that really maybe pulled at your heart that you maybe put more into and lost money on just because it was so I feel like you're really unique. I think, and not everybody works really hard, but I think you have some tricky clients. I don't think you have any fear of taking them on. And just from talking with you, I know you work incredibly hard for your clients. So tell me about a case
Oh,
without
well,
getting into the details. Like,
right.
yeah,
I have been unfortunate enough to probably see the entire gambit of any situation that could possibly unfold, to, a child unfortunately passing away in a kinship placement, to having a client that has unfortunately decided that there's a permanent fix to temporary issues, to children that have actually gone through with self-harm and had to be admitted for inpatient care and now are living with a lifelong disease. Self-harm, it can turn into a disease. So this is in no way an easy job. One of the things that I've kind of started to lean into is that you also can't just do this job and take everybody's legal stuff on and try and deal with it that way. There's a lot of opportunity for coaching. There's a lot of opportunity to have what we call client control and make an impact in these people's lives in a way that is more than just filing pleadings and trying to fight in litigation before the court. There's a lot of tools that I feel like I've had to work on myself. I've had to become very emotionally aware, emotionally intelligent, and then also be able to impart the things that I've learned that maybe aren't specific to me onto other clients. There are a lot of biases that you hit head on in this. A lot of people who are working in family law who do, attorneys, CFIs, a lot of them, for the most part, had a more privileged upbringing. So things are seen through a lens, even in our own community when working with our clients. So getting over and
Interesting.
understanding the biases that everyone has, including them working with their own opposing party and helping them navigate how to work within that using the resources
Mhm.
they have is probably one of the biggest things I try to focus on top of also providing, obviously, legal work and legal outcomes that
Right.
are beneficial for them.
Yeah. And I do remember that from one of our conversations recently, where you were telling me a story about one of your clients that you kind of you had to help coach him through some of his behavior, which is,
Yes, I called
I
him a
think,
dick.
incredibly unique, right?
I
Yeah.
was very honest. I tend to not sugarcoat. And I didn't, sorry to cut you off. I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No, no, you're good.
um,
Take it.
I I do. I feel like being honest is the better way to go about it, is to be very upfront. A great example, kind of along the lines of what we were talking about, is blue collar men, especially if they have ADHD that has gone undiagnosed, which is totally fine. There's no rule out there that you have to be medicated or go to some kind of therapy to deal with your ADHD. But you don't necessarily present well. Sometimes you go down rabbit holes, you're getting lost in explanations that you don't maybe need to explain, and that can really hurt you in a legal setting, whether it be interviewing with a CFI, whether it be providing testimony, whether it be keeping clear, concise thoughts in your own pro se statements that you're trying to write. It is super important. That's probably the biggest thing, when I work with men of that category, service members, it is the delivery of their content, especially when they project sad and broken feelings into anger and
Mm,
disparaging comments. That's probably one of
yeah.
the hardest things, is to make sure that they realize we need more broken man, so we need more what is causing the underlying issues rather than the projection of how it's coming out in your life.
And I mean, honestly, this is so unique. This is like I've not heard anything like this from anyone else that I've ever interviewed. So I just think you're so unique in that way, and the way that you work with your clients and how you help them through it. Like you said, it's coaching. Like that could make or break a case for them. That could make or break time with their children, right? So, no, I think that's incredibly unique to you.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah, that's my goal, is to leave the family better than I found it. And that can't always be done through filing and beating someone over the head through
Yeah.
motion practice or hearings. I mean, this is about, okay, well, I see that you didn't get what you wanted from this conversation. However, do we think we asked in the best way? If someone had
Yeah.
asked you that way, would you have been very inclined to give them what they were asking for? Or if someone had asked you in this way, would that have been more advantageous towards your goal or what you're trying to achieve
Yeah.
in this communication?
So, what would be your advice, for people that are maybe interviewing attorneys, LLPs, whatever, to help them through the process? I mean, first of all, I hope that everybody at least seeks out some legal advice. and tries to find a good fit of a person that can help represent them throughout the process. So, do you have any advice for like maybe what to look for in somebody that you would want representing you?
I have a wild take. My
Okay.
first suggestion is actually to seek out therapeutic ways, especially if you have kids. If you don't have kids, this is not necessarily for you, but to look at therapeutic ways to at least walk away from the relationship on amicable or terms that you're able to work with as a co-parent. Number one, I wish that that was the thing, that
Yeah.
knowing it is so hard when you walk away and there's no way to conceptualize what that looks like in the future. And that makes it really hard on people that think that there is, the grass is always greener concept.
Hmm.
And especially when you work in the legal field, it can be ugly, especially future stuff. I mean, a lot of what you deal with is trying to head off future issues. It's kind of the same thing. If you do
Yeah.
a good job of heading that off and you find someone who invests in that with you, that's the right person that you're looking for. Not the person who's going to get you the most money in right now. The person who's
Yeah.
going to look at your situation and say, okay, you've been a stay-at-home parent. What would you like to do going forward? Okay, how much does that cost? How much does the education to become X, Y, and Z gonna cost? Or you can even pivot and say, you've got oil and gas investments here. How about instead of taking a huge payment, you take some of these assets, go to school to manage these assets, and put yourself in a position to capitalize on the assets and opportunities that we actually have in front of us. That's
Yeah.
all, these are things that I think are super important that I would, hit home. Yes, you might want a bulldog, but at the same time, you want the person who's going to set you up in the future for success. And that's kind of where you come in the work we do together, which I didn't know is there's a lot you can do to make sure you're not screwing your client over who can't qualify for the loan, and you can get that figured out right out of the gate. Get the house
Yeah.
sold, get it done. Someone who's solution oriented doesn't want to take your money and promote fighting, wants to find solutions to make the resources you have actually work for you and your family.
Yeah. I think it's hard because we know how a lot of this stuff ends. And when you're having an initial consultation with somebody, if they are being really narrow-minded into what it is that they want, and we're like, you're not going to get that. But if you're honest with them, then sometimes they seek out, another professional, right? They seek out the professional that tells them what they want to hear. It's unfortunate. I mean, I think all of us that are really honest in the work that we do, we lose business to that type of a person. And I think that's okay because I think there's plenty of people that get it, right?
Yeah, more power to you. I mean, if you want to take that case
Yeah,
and you're digging for dollars, hey, that's your prerogative. I just
right.
don't have that's something that eats my soul. So that is not,
Yeah.
it's just not something
You're not
I'm
going to go
able to
there.
engage in. Who knows? Maybe when I make a bunch of money, I'll turn into that person. Who knows? But
No, don't do it. Don't turn into that person.
try
Um,
not to.
Well, I mean, we're about ready to wrap up. So, I mean, I'll ask you how to find you, but before we wrap up, is there anything that you want to say before we wrap up? And if not, how do people find you?
I guess final notes would be yes, I am, my business is Covalent LLP and Legal Services. In the beginning, we chose Covalent. I love the idea of a covalent bond. I don't know if you know 21 Jump Street.
Yep.
And he has to talk about, he goes in for this tutoring time and he says, well, what is a covalent bond or whatever that is? He says, well, it's a bond that's very strong because it's when two electrons share an atom that fuses the bond. So the reason I chose the word covalent is because the idea was strengthening the bond between attorneys and their clients. Well, now
Mm,
I am able to represent clients. So I'll have to kind of tailor my tagline or slogan there. But yeah,
All
yeah.
good.
Find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on TikTok. We're getting started. I go by the Persnickety Paralegal. I have not switched over my personality to my LLP personality yet. And
That's
yeah,
okay.
and I do free consultations. I'm happy to meet with people, discuss kind of what they're looking for, what their needs are. Even if you are not interested in working with me, you and I both have a Rolodex of referrals that we're happy to
Yeah.
give people. So,
Yeah. We're not always the best fit, 100%, but I
oh,
I love you and I love the work that you do. So
thanks.
thanks for jumping on today. And yep, we will get this out on YouTube and share you with everybody.
Great. I really appreciate it. I really enjoy working with you too. I love the content that you put out and the education that you're willing to impart on those of us who think we know everything. Well, not me. That would be my peers, the ones with the actual JDs. No. But yes, I really have appreciated getting to know you too. And this has been a great community and a really, really awesome opportunity that I'm looking forward to pursuing here.
You're going to do really well. You are.
Thanks.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Yeah, take care. I'll talk to you soon, I'm sure.
Yep.
Bye.
All right.
Thanks for joining us on Divorce Mortgage Strategies, powered by the Divorce Lending Association. If today's conversation brought you clarity, insight, or inspiration, we encourage you to subscribe and share this episode with others in your circle. For more resources, or to connect with a certified divorce lending professional in your area, visit divorcelendingassociation.com. And be sure to download the free Divorce Strategy Hub mobile app for tools, education, and support designed to guide you through the financial side of divorce. Until next time, remember, in divorce, the mortgage isn't the problem, it's the plan.